Welcome to the Work-Life Balance Podcast. I am Kara.
And I am Maggie.
Together, we're a power real estate team with the Maggie partners in Nashville.
We believe that the hustle culture of today's driven entrepreneur who lives and works in Middle Tennessee requires balance.
Hi, welcome back to Work-Life Balance. Today, we're going to talk about relationships, not only in the personal aspect of them, but also in the business way. Maggie and I are still learning this ourselves, but we thought it'd be a fun topic to share. So Maggie, start us off.
Yeah, so I thought we would just be good to talk about this, and because we are doing a lot of networking ourselves, but not only that, Karen and I are very well versed in the fact that we have both been in very long-term relationships. So I think we're experienced enough to be able to talk on both the personal and business aspect of it. But we'll start with the business aspect because that's what this podcast really revolves around. But I just think the more you can go out and network and people in your same business will only help you grow your sphere of influence. And that really is the most important thing in this business. Yeah,
I agree. And I think, like I was just mentioning, I'm still learning to network. I mean, I've always networked, but here in a new location, like I've got to get back to it. So maybe share some of the stuff that you've been joining lately, like the BNI, or
for sure,
so people understand the different options.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get in BNI, which is a business networking group that's very big. It's got like 80 million people in it with like over 100 chapters and stuff like that across the nation. But it's basically just a referral group. So there's one seat per profession in the group. So it's very competitive, and I'm still trying to get in that spot. But yeah, that's just one way that I've kind of done that. And I'm also in Murfreesboro Women's Connect, where they just have like little happy hours and business luncheons where you basically go meet different people. You can like stand up, talk about your business, and hand out business cards and blah, blah, blah. So you basically can get a lot of leads from networking groups like that. But from there, I kind of take it to the next step just because, you see everybody there and you meet all of the people, but it's not as personal because everybody's standing there telling about their business and their thing too. So it kind of gets lost in the mix after everybody goes. Especially BNI is more focused just because there's not as much competition. So there's only one realtor in that room.
Okay.
So anybody that has a lead for a realtor, exactly. So there's not like 5 or 6 realtors in that same room fighting for that one person's lead, right? As where like the Women's Connect groups that I go to, they have multiple realtors there sometimes, especially in the ones in Nashville, just because Nashville's very saturated with realtors. So you run into that a lot more.
I feel like the BNI, though, you've mentioned, like you have to bring somebody. Is that how it works? Or you have to refer somebody in your group at least once a week?
Yeah. So, there's lots of stipulations. Yeah. You have to do they're called one-to-ones.
Okay.
So you have to go and actually outside of the group and the meeting there, you have to go and have coffee or lunch or whatever with at least one person in the group a week. Okay. And then every week you're supposed to bring, which it doesn't have to be every week. I think it's once a month is the expectation to bring somebody with you. Okay. And then, it's pretty intense. Like you have to pay for it, and which a lot of times, especially if you're in the real estate seat, it pays for itself just because of how many leads you get from that. But yeah, I take it to the next level, and I go have coffee with anybody that I meet there. I've been to different chapters and stuff, but I think it's great. I've met a lot of really, really great people. Some come on our podcast, and hopefully more coming on our podcast from those groups. But I've gotten a few leads out of them just from being a visitor and not even being in the group. So.
That's right, you did. And I think you have a repeat buyer right now with one that you met through there, right?
Absolutely.
So I think, like, because you're so involved with BNI, or you're trying to be and get that spot, that's such a great way to get your name out in a community that you're not known in. Exactly. And like you mentioned, there's so many realtors in Nashville that were like, dime a dozen.
Yeah, you're competing with everybody.
Yeah, you're competing with everybody. So whatever we can do to get us out in front of them and make us like, hey, meet the Maggie partners. We're out of the networking. And so that's great. It's building relationships that hopefully is going to create a lifelong relationship as far as a client or friend.
Yeah, I think so. And I think really and truly, a lot of people come and visit those groups. You see people come all the time. But taking that next step is what's really going to make you stand out. Because if you're the one reaching out to some of the members of the group, like, hey, do you want to go have coffee? Like, they're way more I guess, like lenient to give you their business because they're learning more about you. Like I said, it can be very overwhelming. I think there's one group that has like 60 members. So hearing everybody stand up every day and talk about their own business, you can get lost in the shuffle. So, and they're meeting new people all the time. So you really have to do extra things to stand out. But
you got to do that, and you got to get like out of your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah. You have to stand up in front of a room of 60 people and be able to give your 30, 40-second pitch about your business.
Well, I told you John went.
Not for him.
No.
And it's not for everybody.
No, he does not like public speaking. I was like, well, I mean, you might get a lead. You may, as long as you get up and say, hey, I'm John, whatever, construction company, you might get like a client. And he was like, yeah, not for me.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. But like you said, it pays for itself if you can get a relationship out of it.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked to a few realtors in the group just across the board. I know a few that are in a few different ones across Nashville, and they say that they get at least like 10 leads a year out of it.
Okay, well, that's quite a bit.
That's quite a bit. That's like tripling, quadrupling the money that you put into it.
Right.
But it's definitely a time commitment. I mean, we're talking about that group in particular. There's definitely other ways to grow your network and grow your sphere of influence, but that's just one way that I've kind of done it.
Right. And I told you I was going to look into the Chamber of Commerce because that's something that I was involved in back in California. And it's definitely old school, like, when you think of the Chamber. But they're the forefront of development in the community that you live in.
For sure.
So if you can, especially in our business, if you see what's happening, like from the eyes of the people that are in the planning department and all of that, then you can see what the forecast of the community is where it's going.
Yeah, and that just gives you a leg up.
Right. What's the growth look like? So you have that knowledge to share with your clients. Right. And it's just, I think it's super insightful. So that's the direction I'm going to lean towards. And then obviously we put them together and it just doubles our power.
Oh, for sure. And I know we've talked about going to different charity events and things like that too. Because, I mean, those are the types of events that people that want to work with other good people go to.
Correct.
And typically you don't have bad people going to charity events.
Right. And I mean, you got to make sure the intention of the charity is super important to you personally. There's so many you can get involved with, but you're meeting like-minded people for sure.
Right.
Because not everybody is willing to donate to that specific charity that touches your heart like that. So you meet good people and you're giving back.
Yeah.
And that's just tenfold. We always say that, like, give to the universe and you will receive back. Do good.
Exactly.
So that's just another way of creating relationships.
Yeah, and I think you had a really good point there. It just being around like-minded people. I mean, we have the quote written down to talk about if you are the smartest person in the room or the most successful person in the room, you need to find
Get out of that room.
Get out of the room. Like,
move on.
That is not where you should be. You should. And we talked about on Jim's podcast, imposter syndrome, and it's like, that shouldn't even be a thing because if you're in a room that you feel uncomfortable, that's where you should be.
Right.
Because being uncomfortable is what's going to make you
Makes
grow.
you grow. Yeah. So, yeah, I know that was a good conversation about being the imposter syndrome. I've actually never really heard it like that, but it made sense. But I feel like if your mind is not stimulated and you're not able to learn something new every day, like you need to be learning something new every day, whether it's a minute thing or something huge. Exactly. There needs to be life lessons in everything you do. And I feel like the second you stop growing, it's like you're just stunted.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like there's nothing more you can give to anybody else. So like for you, it's stimulating to me because I'm teaching real estate stuff that I've never had to think about anymore. Yeah. It's just like innate. I've been doing it for so long. It's like riding a bike. But for you, you're like a sponge. So you're just taking it all in and growing. And then it's like, it almost is helping me grow as well, like in different ways, you know?
Yeah, because, and I think that's one thing too, is having to teach somebody else something that you already know, but in a different way can make you think of it differently too.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and I think there's something to be said about being a lifelong learner.
I agree.
Because, I mean, like you said, that all that's going to do is stunt your growth and stunt your own success if you stop learning new things. Because you're not just going to get to a point where you know everything. You're not a computer. You're not God. Like, there's always things to be learned.
Right. And so pick up a book and read or, watch a documentary on the History Channel. I mean, little things like that just continue your mind.
Exactly.
You've got to get your mind. I know this is a silly thing, and I don't know if you do it, but do you do Wordle?
Yeah, I have.
It's so funny. Like, John, that's his first thing in the morning, and the same with his mom. And they get up, and his dad, they're all in like the little group Wordle. And it's like, it just gets your mind popping and firing so that, like, instead of getting on I find myself getting on and scrolling.
Yeah, on
and it's
Instagram
stupid
or
shit,
Facebook
and
or
it's
whatever.
wasting my time, but it's like a morning pastime with my coffee. I should like be doing something that's maybe stimulating.
Yeah.
So I am putting that into practice. That's going on my vision board for next year. Is I want to start the day with something that gets your endorphins going.
Yeah.
And like your synapses
neurons,
neurons firing and
yeah.
all of that.
I think the Wordle is definitely a way to do it. I know people do it more conventionally, I guess, with books.
Yeah.
But we talked about this with Jim also, and I think it's a good point. There is definitely something to be said about having a civil conversation with somebody else about different viewpoints. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether that be politics or real estate or marketing, like whatever it may be, you can always learn something from somebody else just having a civil conversation. You might not agree.
Yeah.
And you, a lot of the time, won't always agree.
But you might learn something.
You might learn something or change your mind.
Or agree to disagree. And that's totally that's totally fair.
Yeah.
That's how it used to be before everybody got so damn sensitive.
I know. And that's so funny you said that. Agree to disagree is a major thing in relationships, period.
Every day.
Every day. Because you're not going to meet a single person that you think the same on everything. Right. I think you're always going to disagree.
Wouldn't that be boring?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of similarities. My husband and I have a lot of similarities, but I think he and I have more differences than similarities because it's like I didn't want to marry myself.
No. Opposites attract, for sure. I think that definitely
isn't that weird?
Is accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate, though.
Yeah.
Because you and Reed are different.
Oh, totally.
Totally. Which is like, he kind of is your yin to your yang, like, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And my best friend, too, we are totally, totally different.
Yeah.
And, like, even age-wise, like, she's 7-8 years older than me. But every time I get off the phone with her, I've learned something new or thought about something differently than what I thought of originally.
How cool is that?
It's amazing. I love it. And that's why we're best friends, because I'm like, okay, our conversations never get boring, and I'm always stimulated in some way.
Right.
But that being said, I also have written down to talk about networking with other people, whether it be going out to coffee or lunch or just meeting them for 5 minutes. Learning something from them about their successes can help you be successful too. Mm-hmm. Because you're not always going to do business the same way. Nobody has the exact same business model as another. And I mean, that just helps your business catapult.
So I guess in the direction of that, like, are you talking like, the way I look at it is, if you've already been through it and you can kind of explain it to me on what you did and what not to do?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you mean by that a little bit? Like,
yes. Yeah. Yes and no. So as far as like mentorships goes with like you and I don't have to fall to be able to learn from mistakes, because you are able to reiterate to me like what you've learned across the years, you know? So I don't necessarily have to fall down and get back up to learn the lesson. Mm-hmm. But more than that, too, just meeting with other realtors and listening to things that have been working for them, that can also work for you.
I totally agree. And so you can go on those forums. I mean, I know they have like a lot of the Facebook ones, which I love, because it's like they just kind of give you little bits and pieces, and you can read between the lines. There's a lot of it you don't need to follow, but I think it's important that you're part of those. I know we talk about sometimes going to like Bradford offers, you know, little coffee date, what do they call it? Boot camps, and those like
coffee talks.
Yeah. And it's just like you can sit around and listen to everybody's experience, like you're saying, and you might learn a thing or two. And that's good knowledge that you didn't have before you walked into the meeting.
Yeah, I think so.
You got to just take advantage of any way you can create a relationship is only going to benefit you.
I think so. And on top of that, which you're probably going to laugh when I say this, because you always hound me for asking a bunch of questions, but I think when you're going to meet somebody, you know you're about to have a meeting with somebody, come prepared with questions. Like, think about their past. If you don't already know, be thinking of questions that you could ask. But it's so important to ask good questions, and questions that you are genuinely curious about, and you can go into that knowing what you want to learn from somebody else.
Do you do that?
Yeah.
Do you go with like...
You think I ask good questions?
I always think you ask. Yes, you do. You're very methodical in the way you ask questions. But like when you go to a coffee date, do you go with like a binder and you're like,
not a binder?
Okay, I need to know like how did it start and how is it ending? Like,
okay, when I say go with a list of questions, I mean like mental list.
Mental list.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't come prepared with like a whole question.
They're like, oh God.
Can you fill this before we start talking? Can you fill this out for me?
Can you fill out my questionnaire?
No, not like that. I just mean be mentally prepared for every situation that you're about to walk into.
Yeah.
Like, I don't walk into BNI without knowing what I'm going to say when I stand up.
Right, and especially if you got 60 eyeballs on you and you're like,
60 eyeballs of people that I want their business.
Yeah.
And I want their referrals.
So your impression is super important. And you got 30 seconds to make a good one or a bad one.
Yeah, I mean, your first impression is always the most lasting impression.
100%.
Yeah.
I tell my kids that all the time.
Even
as little as brush your flipping hair. When they see you, you may have just came off the job and you've been working all day, but you just met somebody at the gas station and he sees you, your appearance is what he sees first.
Exactly.
And if you could just remember that, because that is the long lasting, exactly what you just said.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I know I'm a little bit generational, like where, you know, when we go show property, I'm very specific. I want to look professional because most of the time it's the first time you're meeting that person. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to show up and they're like, okay, Raggedy Ann, who are you? Who are you? You want me to buy $1 million home from you that you don't even look presentable?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it goes a long way. So you got to.
Oh, for sure.
Your first impressions are
and
super
it's
important.
really, you can always have a great first impression, mess up later, and be able to recover from that. But if you have a really, really bad first impression, that is almost always hard to come back from.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I genuinely don't know of a bad first impression that I've been able to turn that relationship around.
Yeah, I don't think
just
so.
The ones I have on the top of my head.
I wish I could have one on top of my head, like I could share with you. But I don't hang out with those people.
Yeah, no,
I probably never gave them a second chance.
Because, and honestly, if they had a bad first impression of you, they're not going to want to hang out with you again.
No.
Or be around you again.
Right. So. And it's not, and I guess I should take back, like, it's not just appearance, but it's attitude.
Yeah.
Like, how did you introduce yourself? Like, that's important. Like, did you give me eye contact? I have a big pet peeve of like.
That's my number one thing. I'm serious.
Yes. Like, look at me, shake my hand, and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And don't, like, if I'm with you and they come right up and they don't know me and they speak to you and don't have the, like,
I hate
politeness.
I know what you're saying and I hate
Oh my God. I shut off immediately. Like,
immediately. I'm not about that.
Wait, am I invisible? Like, acknowledge my presence, whether you want to speak to me or not.
Yeah. And I know we're going to go into personal relationships later.
Yeah.
But that's a huge thing for me. Like, if you know my boyfriend and you come up to us and I'm with him and you only talk to him, that's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
At least introduce yourself.
Right.
Or if hopefully you have a boyfriend that would stand there and introduce you.
Yeah.
But that's just very disrespectful in business and personal relationships, period.
I don't want to be around those people.
And I love that you said that about eye contact because, I mean, my parents drilled that into me.
Yes.
Eye contact is so powerful. If you can sit there, have a conversation with somebody and not break eye contact, that's going to make a lot of times them feel awkward.
Totally awkward.
Yeah. And I mean, negotiation wise, I mean, this is kind of more business related, but if you're having to negotiate with somebody in person, this is more what I've gotten from like selling cars. But if you're like standing there and you're like looking at the ground or looking up and not looking at them, that's going to make you look weak.
I was just going to say sign of weakness and not confident. And even if you're faking it till you make it, bullshitting your way through it all, do it correctly and like look at me square in the face.
Exactly.
Because I feel like, what is that whole thing? If you're looking to the left or you're looking to the right, you're making
lying.
up a lie, right? I don't remember which way it is.
The left.
The left. So, yeah, and I'll catch myself noticing if somebody's, especially my kids. So what are you storming up there? What story are you about to tell me?
I don't know, like, what lie are you coming up with in your head
I can't wait to hear this one.
I know. But that's the thing, too, is just key to long-term success, having good relationships with people over time is really going to help you. I mean, I'll just give you a short little example. The realtor that was in the BNI group that I'm going up for right now, who he's getting out of the business and doing his own venture thing, he was actually selling a house for another group member in that BNI, and I covered that open house for him. And so I had just met her that one time, and the first time I walked into that BNI, almost 7 months later, she immediately recognized me. And she came up to me and she was like, oh my gosh, like, it's so good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And like, now we're going to have coffee next week. And hopefully like that will flourish into a relationship that I can eventually get business out of.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely not the ultimate goal because I'm very much like a friendly person and I like to have a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
So that's not, I don't want that to sound like that's my only intention is to get business, but.
Well, I mean, your number one intention on joining these groups is not to gain a new best friend.
Yeah.
It is business. They're there for the same reason.
Exactly.
You know, so you kind of have to take the emotional out of it and realize we are here to build relationships and to help further each other's business. And on the flip side, if we become friends out of it, well, that's a bonus.
Exactly.
But really the intention on everybody's part, unless they really have a problem meeting just normal friends in like real life, you know.
Yeah.
Which you don't have a shortage of that. So that's actually a question I want to ask. Are you like, would you rather have like 5 super tight
I knew you were going to ask.
besties or 25 acquaintances
5 super tight besties.
that you could call like, if anything.
Ride or dies.
Yeah, ride or dies. Yeah.
I think you feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had a pretty large group of friends, but they all were very meaningful relationships.
See, I feel like in high school, I was like that. In high school, I had a bunch of friends, and I had maybe one super close friend. And then I just had like a bunch of acquaintances. And then when I left college, I kind of fell off with every single one of those people because none of them were actually super meaningful to me. A few I still talk to and have that relationship with. But then when I got to college, my whole viewpoint on that kind of shifted. And all throughout college, I had 3 best friends, and that was it. I didn't really which I wasn't in a sorority. That was never my whole thing. That was kind of annoying to me.
Yeah.
Nothing against that, but that's just not my niche. And I met a few really good friends that I loved a lot, and I trust and still trust with my whole life. And I would rather have that, and being able to see kind of both sides makes me respect my really close friends even more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, they mean way more to me than any of the 30 other people I used to know do.
Right, and you protect those relationships.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we're going through it right now just because, you know, we moved. And we had a huge group of friends there. And the second you're not, like, there and you're not, like, oh, is everybody coming to my house? I always was the person I felt that was, like, kind of this, like, planner. And now that I'm gone, a lot of those friendships kind of just faded away. The ones that are actually should have been the forefront of my mind all the time are still there. But I definitely have lost some friends from the move.
And that kind of just shows you the level of friendship that they had for you as well.
Correct.
Because if you, not necessarily that they didn't mean a lot to you, because I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
But the fact that they also let that relationship fall off.
Right.
Means that y'all were never really close friends. I'm not trying to like burst your bubble there, but.
No, 100%. And distance is not easy. It takes like so I've got 2 best friends since childhood. Like I'm talking like 30, shoot. We've been my best friend, well, both of them, we were friends since like 5.
Yeah.
So 35, 40, almost 40 years friendships. And one of them, military, her husband, they lived all over across seas, like in Georgia or Germany and all over.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years. We're still thick as thieves. I mean, she now lives in Alabama, so we're getting to see each other again. But if she can live in Germany and our friendship never failed, that is a damn good, strong friendship.
Oh, it is.
And my other one, she's in Arkansas, and she's been gone out of California for years as well. And we're thick as thieves. So those are my ride or die. I could call in the middle of the night, bail me out of jail,
and
best friend, and I would do the same. I mean, that's just a friendship.
Yeah, and that says a lot about, if you have a lot, which we'll go into this when we talk more about personal relationships, but it says a lot to me if you can stand there in front of me and say, okay, I've been friends with this person for 15 years. Yeah. Because that just shows that you're willing to stick through it all. Maybe you haven't been through it all with that specific person, but it definitely shows to me that you are willing to commit.
100, yes. And that you're a damn good person.
And because it's not easy, long distance friends are not easy.
No.
But.
And it could be a month or something, you don't pick up the phone, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm such a jerk. Like, how are the kids?
There has to be that effort there.
So much effort. But if you're willing to put the fight in, same with your marriage, same with your boyfriend, same with your girlfriend.
And everything in life.
And everything you do. Same with your career.
Yeah.
You have got to put the work in, or you're just not going to get the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
And it falls apart.
Yeah, and I had said this earlier, which I wanted to say here, but it was the first time Kara had heard it, which me and Reed say all the time, is iron sharpens iron. So if you're with other like-minded people, like we said, then you're just going to get better, and they're going to get better, and you're going to grow together in your relationship, personally, business-wise, everything.
I had never heard that saying before. But, if you think about it, iron sharpens iron. It makes sense.
Totally true.
So, and I feel like everybody is put in your life for a reason. everybody plays some sort of a role. Don't you agree? Like,
I totally agree.
I mean, clearly you and I are prime example of that. Like, I was not looking for you.
No, and that's what
You
I
were
wanted to
probably
say
not
too.
looking for me.
Going back to the whole first impressions thing, if I wouldn't have made a good first impression on you, then we would not be here today.
Correct.
And that just goes to show how important that is.
Well, a first impression for me is you made a damn good cocktail.
Yeah, Kara's like,
I'm teasing.
oh, she can make a margarita. I'll stick with her.
No, I mean, it was just, and it hasn't stopped. We can sit here and talk very effortlessly.
Yeah.
And that's why you will be in my life for the longevity, because I'm not a person that wants to work hard for relationships.
No.
I feel like if they're supposed to be there, then it should be pretty easy.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the friends that I've met here. There's no no expectation. Like, hey, y'all together, y'all want to watch football on Saturday? Everybody go to so-and-so's house. Or, you up for drinks tonight? It's just so easy. And if you can't go, then who cares?
Exactly. And I hate having friends, which I don't have any friends that are like this, thankfully, because I've kind of cut the people off that were like this.
Yeah.
But I don't like having friends that it takes a lot to be their friend.
No.
Like, I should not be expected to hang out with you every single day just to consider myself your friend.
Right.
That's annoying and takes a lot of time that I genuinely don't have. And that's just says a lot about you if you have to hang out with somebody every single day to be considered their friend.
Right. So, moral of like our little rant that we're going off on right now, that's what we do. I think cut the toxic people out of your life, bring in the ones that stimulate and make it effortless, and you want to be around and you're learning from.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not that hard to find those people.
It's not.
But if you want to just be a half-ass friend, I'm just not interested.
And I think that just goes back around to the point of being in the correct room.
Right.
Be in a room that is going to allow you to have growth and not stunt your growth. I mean, that should be a red flag to you if you consider yourself the smartest person in there.
Yeah. I've been that person before, and it is, there's no stimulation to
It's
it.
draining more than anything.
Right.
Because, I mean, who wants to sit there and explain all of their viewpoints to somebody else when everybody's not understanding because you're not on the same mental level?
And I don't mean smartest. I mean, like, because I'm clearly not the smartest person. I mean, like, when it comes to, like, my field of, like, real estate, where you're talking to, like, people that have, let's just say it was a room of all brand new agents. There's nobody in that room that's going to teach me something about real estate.
Yeah.
Now, I could talk to you about other things, and I'm definitely going to learn. But that's where you're like, no, I still want to be, even being in the business this long, I still want somebody that has done something better or whatever that I'm learning from.
Right.
Because then what am I learning?
And look up
and
to
I don't
those
have anything
people.
to serve for you.
Exactly.
You know?
No,
So,
I totally agree. So that kind of wraps that up on like the business side of things. Just get out there, network with people, because all it's going to do is help grow your sphere of influence. And that's ultimately the goal.
right.
Is to have as big of a sphere of influence as you can. And I think that says a lot about being on a team too, because not only do you have your own, but you have somebody else's also.
Right.
And maybe even if you have a bigger team, multiple other people's.
And network is everything
Oh, for sure.
in our business.
Going into personal relationships a little bit, though, Kara and I, which we'll kind of go into it just a little bit. So I know people, this is a business like work-life balance podcast, but that also talks about life. And your husband and my boyfriend and your family are like the biggest part of our lives.
Sure.
So I think it's important to share. So kind of tell us a little bit about yours and John's story.
Well, you and I kind of have this, I mean, a very similar story.
Yeah.
You know, we've been together since we were 17. High school sweethearts, which you and Reed are the same, right? So, I mean, there's been a lot of growth that we've done together. And it takes a lot of work, and we're not always on the same page. But, you know, being together, we're married 18 years, you know, so, and together 7 on top of that.
Yeah.
So how many years is that?
Wait,
More
how many?
than half.
17 plus 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So half my life I've been with the same person. And, you know, I mean, a lot of people grow apart, you know, and that's not an option for us. And so we work really, really hard at our relationship. And
you should have to do that.
yeah, and we protect it, because guess what? There's a lot of people that want to get in between that stuff. And not everybody's got the right intentions. And
sometimes they can be the people closest to you, which is very unfortunate.
yeah,
But it just is what it is. I mean, and you can't read people's minds, so you can't know everybody's intention.
right.
But
So you just got to be cautious of that. you got to protect your relationship, and you just have to work on it.
Yeah.
Like, there is no, if people always ask, and I'm sure you get the same question, like, how do you make it, like, what's the secret? Guess what? There's no secret.
There is no secret. Sorry.
It's called work.
Yeah.
Work at it. Create, like, relationships. And if you're not happy, then that's okay, too. Move on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not anti-divorce person, because I think some people that get married young, they do grow apart if they're on completely different levels.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
I think that's fair too. And to the divorce thing, I mean, you can be so in love with somebody for a period of time and think that it's going to be the best thing ever, and then you switch. Everybody changes. You're not going to be the same person for the entirety of your life. And that's okay.
You gotta be willing to pivot, or it's not gonna work.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, is you have to both be willing to have the same end goal and be willing to work to get to that goal.
Yeah.
So it's not, like you said, it's not easy.
Right. And I'll tell you, this is like one thing that's fun though, with like, you're gonna experience it because you guys have been together since you were young, is when you grow your life together and you both, like, you start from scratch, $0 in the bank as 17-year-olds, to being able to blossom and have a beautiful life that you've created together.
Yeah.
Not one brought in something that the other wasn't able to. There's something to say about that. And it makes you very proud as a couple, and I think that helps.
I'm going to say this quote, and it's from a rap song.
Oh, rap it, girl.
One good girl is worth 1,000 bitches, and that's true.
All right.
Like, and I even saw this from more of like that's a rap quote, but
that's a rap quote.
From more of a business, from more of a business aspect of it, I did see a clip of this really, really successful guy. And okay, like you said, the people that go around in Nashville or wherever with like just the one-liners and have you answer it.
So
there's a guy that goes up to people with really nice cars and asks them, how do you afford this car?
Exactly, yes.
And he went up to this guy, long story short, he asked the guy for one piece of advice. And the man's advice was, find a woman that is going to stick with you, because she is going to carry you further than anybody else will in your life.
That's it.
That's the freaking truth.
That's the truth.
I mean, a woman can take you so far.
The woman's you want her to support you.
Especially if she's loyal and whatever else. But that being said.
And let's just throw that whole, the grass ain't greener on the other side.
No.
It's green where you water it. And you better water your yard.
True.
Water your yard, girlfriend.
I'm glad you said that.
Because if you don't water it, someone else is going to water that for you.
I mean, that's true. And I think that's a huge thing to be said, too, is temptation is so prevalent in our world. And I mean, it says that, I mean, we're not like too religious, but we're definitely religious people. And that's definitely a huge thing in the Bible, is you have to avoid temptation and be able to overcome that temptation. Because like you said, the grass is not greener on the other side.
No.
It might feel all great because it's new and exciting, but you're going to leave something that you've spent forever working on and building. No,
to
it's
what?
not worth
Start
it.
over again?
Exactly. When you could be putting all of your time and energy into making your current relationship better, that's just way worth it.
Right.
But like you said, we kind of have the same situation.
We do.
It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. And I think we're gonna talk about this when you're my age in 20 years. And you're going to understand what I mean by building together is priceless. And it's something that you can share that no one else can share with you. Even if I was to go get remarried, nobody's going to have that experience.
No.
You know, and it's just, it's unique.
And no two relationships are the same, ever.
No.
Whether it be the same person, like you with somebody else versus somebody else, they're never going to be the same.
Right.
I mean,
so I think that's like, and the reason we're even sharing this information, because probably you don't give a shit about how long we've been married or whatever, but it's the longevity.
It is.
It shows character, and it shows that we aren't quitters.
Exactly.
And we're going to overcome whatever obstacle we're given.
Right. The commitment and the determination. I mean, it shows that you can stick to something for a long period of time, which I think says a lot. And I think we said this earlier. It kind of is a red flag if you don't have any kind of long-term relationships. Whether that be business, personal, relationship-wise. Like, it's...
Or you're just a friend hopper, which, you know, they're out there. There's a lot of people I've passed in my life that were just social climbing, or their intentions were not heartfelt. You know what I'm saying? Because you probably are, if you haven't experienced them out of college, you're going to see it. And especially the more successful you get, you're going to see some people jumping on your back. And and
People coming out of the woodwork. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, I'm not into that, and I would rather be with people that are commitment doesn't scare them. So yes, red flag, if I ever meet somebody that doesn't have a group of friends that they've known since they were children or at least high school or whatever, or if you haven't been married at my age, I think that's also a red flag.
Yeah. I mean, because that shows that you're not maybe willing to commit and that you have commitment issues if we want to go into the therapy side of things. But
that might be for another time.
Yeah, which we are. We could be licensed therapists at some point. We had this conversation yesterday,
yes,
but that was getting off point. But to bring it around to the psychology side, being with one person and having a committed relationship scientifically lowers your cortisol levels. It lowers your stress levels.
Yeah, that's amazing, huh?
That is.
You know why they say that?
Why?
It's got to be the happiness.
Yeah.
You know, when you're happy, if you ever notice that unhappy people are overweight typically, and that is the whole cortisol thing, like
hormone imbalance.
So like if you're happy and you're out and you're healthy and you're getting the sunlight and you're exercising and things are flowing, I mean that totally makes sense that it would lower your cortisol level.
Oh, for sure.
So your stress is lower and you're just overall your well-being's happier.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it just says a lot. And I think it says a lot about us that we can hold those relationships. And I mean, definitely says probably a lot about me to you.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to grow this long term and be together long term. And I think it just shows that we can do that.
Right. Because I would say probably I'm the most loyal person you're ever going to meet in your entire life. I'm there for I will never leave.
Yeah. You're not switching up unless somebody gives you a reason to.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I kind of am that person, like, I'll trust you till you do me wrong, which John's like, you're completely half backwards on that one. You need to not trust until they earn it.
Yeah.
And I've just never been that, and it's burned my ass a few times, but I also feel that's just not my heart.
Yeah.
Like, I want to believe that the best in all these relationships that you're meeting and, you know, and everybody that I meet, I want to believe the best in those people. And then if you fuck me over, well, then you're out. Like, I have no problem cutting out. Like, that is one thing. I'm very quick and you're gone and move on.
Yeah.
But it takes, you got to do something for that.
Exactly.
But,
and that's draining too.
Yeah.
Like having people that are constantly making you stressed out, it's not going to do you any good.
No.
So, I mean, I don't care if they've been your best friend for one day or 15 years.
Right.
Like if they are a dead weight, cut it off.
Cut the fat.
Yeah.
I tell the kids that too.
Cut the fat.
Since we've moved here, you know, they've been through different groups of friends because they're trying to get their groove and who they, you know, relate to the most. Mm-hmm. And Mason's had to cut the fat a couple times. And that's what I say. I'm like, you know, just get rid of it.
Right.
Cut the bait, move on. You're going to find another group of friends. And it's just learning.
And I'll go into this a little bit too, just talking about personal relationships. And shout out if you're listening to this, but I had a friend that was my best friend for 11 years until we both went to college. She stayed at MTSU and I went to UT. And that distance kind of separated us a little bit, right? And neither one of us really put in the work that we both needed to put in to make that relationship continue. And I mean, she was my best friend. I basically lived with her. We were staying with each other like 6 nights a week, right? Yeah. And shared everything. So then I went to college and I just kind of got wrapped up in all of that. And I mean, personally, just kind of let it go. She did the same thing. And so we fell off. And then I kind of just reached out to her and I was like, look, I genuinely don't think that our relationship and our friendship is growing in the way that it needs to grow. And it's draining thinking about it and being stressed out about it because I don't feel like we're in a good space. So I can't be your friend anymore.
Wow.
But when I moved back, she reached out to me and we have kind of started hanging out again. And it's like we never stopped hanging out. And that's how you know it's a good friend.
Absolutely. So that's like super mature that you were able to realize it wasn't a healthy relationship at that time of your life.
Yeah.
And then to meet back up 4 years later, you're in a different stage of your life, and to still pick up like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that is like saying a lot for you, being 22 and being mature enough to say, that's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I need to get rid of this person in my life right now. And for you to be able to rekindle 4 years later and pick up, I mean, that's a special relationship. And now you guys can nurture it in a more not responsible way, but a more mature way.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I was 19 when we stopped talking, and then we kind of started talking again when I was 22. But it really was nice because when I first started like going and hanging out with her again, I was like, okay, I really hope this is not going to be awkward. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. And that's just how you know it's a good friend in a relationship that's in a friendship that's meant to be.
Right.
Because you're able to kind of go back. But
I love that.
That being said, I think in business-wise, it's super important to go out, network, and grow your relationships because that's going to help your business long-term.
Right.
And then in personal relationships, I think if you have a long committed relationship, that says so much about you because it just shows that you're willing to commit and you're willing to have the determination to get past the battles because it's not always easy.
I agree. And I think like when you're creating these relationships and you're creating lifelong business relationships through them, they feel that. They can read right between the lines and read our character really quick. People are really good with that. And that goes back to that impressions. And so if you want these relationships and you want the repeat business and you want all the good stuff that comes with being a loyal long-term person in a friendship, then you have to put the work out.
Absolutely.
You've got to put the work in and you're going to get it tenfold.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to come, I mean, it's just back to putting it out in the universe. It's going to come back.
It's just the golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated. And that's it.
Yep.
If you do that, you'll be good in both business-wise and personal-wise.
So hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of that.
Thank you. Got to learn a little bit about us and hopefully some tips. But
yeah.
So thanks for listening and like, subscribe, all the good things, and
share.
See you next week.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.